Are you afraid of losing control? Do you feel like you have to stay in control at all times or bad things are going to happen? And because of this inability to feel safe enough to let go and not have to be in control all the time, you feel very overwhelmed. You feel like you're juggling a million things. You just wish that you didn't have to be in charge or be so strong or be in control all the time. Well, maybe you can relate to somebody I knew once upon a time. I'm going to tell you a story about her, and then we're going to chit chat at the end and see what we can do about this scenario. Because God knows that you're out of balance. And on the other side of control is the ability to surrender. And in the surrender is where all of that love is, all that joy is, all that bliss is, to be able to just go with the flow of life and not have to be so rigid all the time. Let's learn about this little girl once upon a time. Once upon a time, God made a little girl named Constance. He delighted when he made her. He took his magic cauldron and combined the most divine ingredients, and he put equal parts love and equal parts power. He gave her a heart to feel deeper than most. He gave her eyes with great superpowers to see what other people couldn't. Her ears were fine tuned, trouble, not because to be a burden, but as a way to know where to go and who to help. She had been given the most incredible intuition. He programmed her gut with an unshakable instinct. She had the gift of discernment. She was born with just this sense of knowing. God also balanced her sensitivity with that power. She had unparalleled strength. She would be born to know how to take a stand, who to take a stand for, what to take a stand for, and how to stand and who to stand with. This little girl was born to be a queen, a benevolent ruler for whatever kingdom or cause she decided was worthy of her. And then God placed her in the womb of a human, and this human would become her mother. She was born and named, Constance was born and named Connie. Connie's mom was like an exposed live wire. She buzzed with frenetic, anxious energy. She was unpredictable. Connie never knew from one minute to the next how her mom would behave. Anything could set her off, and it usually was a man. There were so many men in and out of Connie's house. She hated coming home from school because that's when some guy would be there and her mom would be doing drugs with that man or having sex with that man right there in the living room in broad daylight in front of everything and everyone. Connie was so mad. She'd storm into the house and scream at her mom. What kind of mom behaves this way? What's wrong with you? She'd scream into the smoke filled trailer, into the abyss. What the fuck are you doing? She'd yell. The older Connie got, the angrier she became until all that was left was like a boiling rage beneath her very stoic surface exterior. Connie became incredibly tough, and somewhere along the way, she decided she'd have to be the boss and take control of this shit show situation that she'd been born into. She decided if she was going to live there, she'd have to be in charge. So she made her bedroom her fortress. She started to develop a set of rules others would have to live by, or off with their head. She didn't have any problems cutting people off. At school, no one was going to fuck with her. Her classmates were afraid of her. She wasn't popular, but she didn't care. She didn't need anyone. Some kids flocked to her, but that's because she could protect them. She was an asshole to everybody else, except for those that she felt like she was in charge of. Her friends waited for her direction. She told them how to behave, what to think, what to feel, all so that they would be okay and life would be good. Corinne, Connie believed she knew the way. It was her way or no way. Her mom was a joke, and Connie took care of herself because let's be real, no one else was going to do it. She wasn't afraid of anyone or anything as long as she was in charge. Connie left home as soon as she graduated high school and she rarely looked back. She worked her way up and worked her ass off and became the CEO of a multi-million dollar company, and she ran a very tight ship. Except many of her employees felt like she was, well, too controlling. It was always her ideas that were the ones that got shared. Everyone else just kind of fell in line. Most of her employees feared her, although they'd never tell her that. She lacked empathy for people. She just wanted them to show up and shut up and do what they were told. I mean, what's so fucking hard about that, right? Connie had many men in her life, but very little romance. She attracted men who were weak and needy. She couldn't understand why she just couldn't attract a man that was stronger than her. Were they all pussies? All they did was try and please her all the time, but she resented having to tell them what to fucking do all the time. She hated being the boss, especially when it came to being in love. But these men couldn't figure it out. So it was always up to her. She didn't have any kids yet, and she wasn't sure she even wanted them. Who needs all that mess and more responsibility? She had had enough already. She was so, so, so tired. She just wanted to rest. She just wanted someone else to take charge for fucking once. No one was strong enough. No one was smart enough. No one was capable enough. And it was always all up to her. One day, Connie was getting ready for work, as usual. She put on her armor, her power suit and stilettos, and her red lipstick. And she looked in the mirror. And as she did, she noticed a tear forming in her eye. Tears were not okay for Connie. And every time she started to cry, she got pissed off automatically. But this time, this inconvenient sadness started to rise up in her. Connie didn't wipe away the tear. This time, she sat and she watched as that tear started to well up in the corner of her eye. And she watched as that tear, as she blinked, she watched that tear fall down her face. And for a moment, Connie wondered what it would feel like to be that tear, to actually just have the courage or the ability or the safety to let go. All she wanted to do was learn how and feel safe enough to let go. Now, maybe you can relate to Connie and you can say, I am in control. I am a controlling person, but I have to be. Nobody else is going to do it. You can hear yourself saying all the things that Connie said. And there is a wonderfulness to being able to be so strong and to be in control and to be in charge. And it's served you very well, but it's also hurting you because it's out of balance. Because Connie was born into an environment where she was born with these leadership abilities, this ability like the benevolent queen to be able to be in charge of her kingdom and lead a people and actually do wonderful good things in the world. But because she was born into an environment that lacked love and had an imbalance, she hyper developed that power and turned it into something else. She used her power instead of to serve, she used it to protect herself because she didn't feel safe. And she hoarded all of her power for herself. And she doesn't know how to let go of power and let other people have power because she fears that if she gives any of that power or control away, that she's going to be hurt, that she's going to be taken advantage of, she's going to be betrayed, she's going to be let down, somebody's going to betray her ultimately, is what she fears the most. Because the first betrayal that Connie experienced in her life was the betrayal of her mother. What is a mother? Her mother's supposed to nurture her, protect her, be kind to her, be a soft place, be an emotionally supportive person, be available to her, be warm, all the expectations that we have. But because Connie didn't experience that type of mothering, she decided that she was going to take charge herself. But love or vulnerability became a dirty word for her. She didn't know how to balance those energies. So, what's the next step for Connie? How does Connie take that moment of recognition in her own tear that something has to change? And what does she do with that next? Well, she sets on a path of reclamation. She sets on a path to learn how to restore the balance again, how to let go of that control, which is a parody of her queen. It's a caricature of who she really is. She lets go of that, learns how to balance so that she can become who she was programmed and born to be, which is that queen. So if that's you, I'd love to support you on the path. I have carved the way. It's a set of learnings, a set of teachings, a set of awakenings that need to happen inside of you to activate that queen and to learn how to restore the balance that is your birthright between letting go, surrendering, and controlling. To have those two energies meld together in that space of love and power and meet in the middle so that your benevolent leadership comes through. You know when to surrender and when to lead. And I want that for you. If you want that and you can relate to this, check out the links that we have here. One of them is working with what I have called now the attachment archetypes, which is the controller, is who I'm talking about. And the controller is a wounded attachment archetype. It is a maladaptive behavior to dysfunction. When you grow up in an environment, kind of like Connie did, we develop these wounded archetypes, these attachment archetypes that help us survive in the world. They help us survive, thrive, connect, or cope, or just deal with whatever cards we're given. But what happens is these archetypes, when they're wounded, are holding us back. So we want to move from a wounded archetype of control to an empowered archetype of benevolent queen. And I can help you because I've charted the path, course, the path between these two destinations. And I want to walk it with you. If you want to walk it with me, go over to HeidiRain.com and learn how we can walk together. I love you. Take excellent care of yourself, and I'll see you really soon.